Watching the world burn, July 26th, 2023. So today it's a weird video. I've got tons and tons and tons of war footage that I wanted to put together in a video. I've got all kinds of Putin statements, Putin speeches, speeches from Zelensky. It's just, and I thought, man, it's going to take me hours to cut, do all this work. And then today, and I said, well, I just got to get a video up. And so today is just a talking video. And I'm going to call this kind of my X video, or Twitter as you might know it. And so I wanted to go through a lot of stuff here on Twitter. Because, I've been making replies to people. I'm definitely making some enemies. Holy moly. So I've got some Ukraine nationalists, that's what I would call them, that I wouldn't say they're trolling me. They just don't agree with my opinion on things or my comment. Actually, it's just commentary. I'm not abusing Ukraine or whatever, but I'm just going to read you this comment because I wanted to go on about this. I was going by his bio, but I suppose he could have just been contracted tech support for the military. Probably not actually military now that I read it again. So I appreciate these people noticing me and going out and reading my bio. So I wanted to tell you my bio just briefly. I served in 3 branches of the military. I served over in, actually I was in Kuwait during the war of 2003. I've killed a lot of people, or participated in the killing of a lot of people. I wouldn't say I did it directly. Thank God I never had to shoot anybody with a gun directly, but I certainly was trained for that. And I was trained for it in the Marine Corps, the Army Light Infantry. That was a Marine Corps combat engineer. That's why I understand a lot of the minefield operations that are taking place in Ukraine and how they're trying to clear them with the sappers. I could tell you all about that. So that was my training there. And then, of course, I was Army Light Infantry, so I could tell you about helicopters, rappelling out of helicopters, anything you want to know about helicopters, or fording rivers, anything you do on the light infantry, mountain warfare. Then you move on to, as an MP in the Army, certainly know how to be a military policeman, dealing with belligerent, there's a lot of people in the military. The military is made up of, it certainly attracts a certain type of personality, let's say, and a lot of those people are not the easiest you basically have to beat them and put them in the car and then take them to jail. And then, of course, then I went on from there to the Air Force as a electronic warfare, so I know a lot about the electronic warfare that's taking place. It's advanced way beyond my knowledge about that, but I can tell you the electronic warfare that's on the planes that Russia uses. I studied it. I worked on it. I worked on all the course, the electronic warfare on American planes. So there you go. Whoever this person was, I won't name them. That's, if you want to get to know me, I encourage them. And by the way, on Twitter, if you didn't know, if you're watching this video and you're not on Twitter, they have a thing now, and you can put a link. And so I had the link to my YouTube videos up in my profile, which kind of limits you because your profile is very short. And so now you can put, I think, you might even put more than one link. So I can put links to various places that I want people to go. Right now, the link just goes to YouTube. I'll post up the Rumble link. I just don't have that many videos at the burn yet on Rumble. That's the burn on Rumble. I can say things over there. Like there's a lot of conversation on Twitter right now about the jab. And we can't talk about that on YouTube. It's still censored 100%. So I will be putting up more and more information about the jab on Rumble, and so you can watch those there. So I just wanted to get into a few of the comments here. Well, this was me. I said the 9/11 takedown of the World Trade Center buildings was done in a way not consistent with the United States government narrative. If you ever want to go out and watch those videos, it's very interesting. The buildings kind of came down in a straight path, which was very interesting. It kind of looked like a demolition from on the inside of the buildings. And that was my point with that comment. I don't want to get too conspiratorial in these videos. You might think I'm a right-wing lunatic. He's a right-wing lunatic. Yeah, I probably am. There you go. There you go. Oh, here's another comment. Is he really involved with the U.S. military? I'm ill and confused, to be honest. So these are people's comments about me. I love it. And see, that's the beauty of free speech. A lot of people would I get offended? Would I block these people? Yeah, if they were trolling me, being a complete idiot. No, I actually, the first comment actually made me go up and change my bio. That was a beautiful thing. And I like this comment. Is he really involved with the U.S. military? Well, I kind of had to go back and read my bio, like I said. So that's what the beauty of free speech is. And this was somebody, let's see. Let's see. Oh, and there's one says, "Give me liberty or give me death. Shame on you. Would you abandon U.S. citizens to occupiers for the sake of peace without liberty?" Well, yes and no. You have to understand when that statement was made, he was going to be executed. So he had already fought his battle and he knew he was going to die. And so it's easy to say, give me peace or give me liberty, because you're trying to inspire the people behind you. But my point, this comment was about, well, we'll get into it, because I was talking about the fact that we could have had peace back in March 22nd, 2022. And unfortunately, the agent known as Vladimir Zelensky didn't go along with that. Ukraine could not use their weak air force, but Poland can. Yeah, Poland's got about 100. I think it's over. I can't remember which nation it was. I think it might be 140 jets. That pales in comparison to the Russian Air Force. And by the way, the Russian Air Force is much more modern than Poland. So yeah, they'll put up a good fight. They might even take down a. But the other problem that you have with that comment is the Russian air defenses. They are much, much, much more advanced than Poland's. So for Poland to actually get their air force, it's a weak air force, to Russian territory to actually shoot at their jets, it's going to be a stretch. I imagine they would lose most of their air force just trying to get a shot off against the Russian air force, because they got to get through those air defenses. Unless Russia advances out past their air defenses, which they have been prone not to do. They've kind of stayed back during the Ukraine war behind their air defenses, just basically watching and exhausting, very patient. And that was another comment that I made. Very patiently going after the Ukraine air defenses until basically right now there are no air defenses left over Ukraine. The Patriot missile batteries are gone. All the NATO air defenses are gone. And if Poland wants to enter the battle, those air defenses will be gone fairly quickly. So let's get into some of my comments. Let's get here, because I want to talk about these. Go into profile. By the way, profile. If you go to my profile, I changed it now so that you can read it. It says retired from information technology after 30 years. Of course, author of the 2016 book, The Internet is Infected. I had serviced, and this is what their comment was, and it says, now I changed it to served in United States Marine Corps, Army, Air Force, and various government agencies, because I was SBI cleared in the NSA and did a bunch of work back in the Soviet Union days. All irrelevant now, so don't listen to me. But let's get into some of my replies. I've already talked about that. Yeah, I said Chris Christie was a blowhard and needs to leave politics. That was one that I put out. Oh, here's one. Ever wonder what Bill Gates was up to? We were talking about the jab. And because what they were pointing out is that there's a lot of young people having myocarditis, and they're dying of heart attacks in the hospitals right now. And you can see that on YouTube. It has nothing to do. There's no connection, obviously, between that and the jab. But I did say that, you might want to look into Bill Gates, and he is a globalist after all. So anyway, that was, this was one, there's a guy that calls himself Black, blah, blah, blah. I assume he's black because that's his name. And I said, someday explain to me why blacks as a demographic continue to vote Democrat against their own self-interest. Because they do. I mean, it's amazing. Because the Democrats aren't looking out for them. I don't know. This was the one that really triggered these Ukrainian nationalists. Let me get back. I got to show more. It says Ukraine had a peace deal signed on March 22nd, 2022. Boris Johnson flew in and sabotaged that deal, telling Ukraine to continue to fight with the aid of Western nations except with Ukraine blood. Now you have to understand, there are NATO troops on the field of battle. I understand there's some Polish in there fighting as mercenaries, but for the most part, I don't know, we're up to about 300, from my estimates now, we're at about 380,000 dead Ukrainians, and well over probably 1.2 million casualties. So then I said, and if you want to watch Scott Ritter, he had to put out a video about Agent Zelensky, and I said, Agent Zelensky went along, thus destroying Ukraine and its people. A proxy sacrifice in the blood for a Western empire who never bleeds. Ukraine will cease to exist, and Russia, Poland, and the West will carve it up like pudding by putting up businesses all over Ukrainian graves. I'm not trying to be harsh. I'm just trying to get them to understand reality. Now you know why they get very angry at me. I mean, holy moly, that was a pretty bold statement. Let's see. Oh yeah, we got the latest in NATO hardware that's going to Ukraine, and then of course I just tell them, I said, even more hardware for Russia to destroy. What is NATO going to have left to fight with besides nuclear weapons? Let's hope it doesn't come to that. Let's see. And then, of course, what more evidence could we need to impeach a corrupt Joe Biden? These are the comments I throw out. Let's see. Yeah, this was an interesting one because we're talking about the jab again. And I said, can you believe that there are still signs all over VA hospitals and clinics begging everywhere, veterans to go get a free COVID vaccine shot? I don't know. I thought we were past COVID. Of course, the next variant is out now. It looks like it might even have a 30% death ratio. So that means the World Health Organization will be taking over the United States. And we'll see how much the people want to go along with that after what they went through in the last round. I think I could take a 30% death rate over the 1% we had before and just want to be free. So let's see. Very good. The only problem for the globalists is Russia is quickly disarming NATO. This was in response to Garland. If you ever watch Garland Nixon, he's on YouTube, and he always talks about how Ukraine is being used as a proxy, and that they're just cannon fodder for NATO, and I tend to agree. But my question to him was, where are they going to find the weapons to supply? Because he was talking about how Poland might enter the value, and Lithuania, and how they're going to be the next cannon fodder for the U.S. empire. And I said, well, where are we going to get the weapons to supply them with? We're just about run out, huh? Oh my God. Let's see. Yeah, of course, more about Russia disarming NATO. Yeah, but I did want to point this out because the long-term plan and the patience has been amazing that Russia has done. They understand Russia's got the power. They could just roll right over Ukraine, go all the way to Kiev, and end the war. But no, they understood from the very beginning they're not fighting Ukraine. They're fighting NATO. And so what they did was they took this long-term strategy of basically wanting NATO to just keep putting weapons into Ukraine. Now, I don't think they wanted the Ukraine people to die in the numbers that they've had to do, but they wanted to destroy all that NATO hardware. And so they've been very patient. Even the offensive that they're doing now are very limited. So, yeah, and this was another one. Douglas McGregor, if you ever watch him on YouTube, he was pointing out, and I added to the conversation, this was my comment, is that right now, Ukraine being a very corrupt nation, a lot of the weapons that we're sending to Ukraine are ended up on the black market. And from what I understand, the drug cartels are ending up with a lot of these heavy weapons. So you're no longer facing a drug cartel with a machine gun or some handguns or a machete. No, these guys got javelins now. They got stingers. They can shoot planes or warplanes out of the air. And they're coming across the border in the southern border in vast numbers. And the Democrats are all for it. I don't understand. If you want to think that the Democrats are in cahoots with the drug cartels, it certainly does seem that way. Of course, we know we got child trafficking coming across, and the Democrats are all for child trafficking. So, you see where this is going. And so what I'm saying, and of course the Chinese are pouring across the border in huge numbers. And of course, Russians are pouring across the border. So there's going to be a lot of sabotage going on in the United States. I imagine they're going to be attacking our power stations. Well, you've already seen food plants blow up. You've seen derailments of trains everywhere. So we're being destroyed from within, and all by design by the Democrats, just so you understand. Yeah, and this was one of, the destruction of the grain deal. I put some tweets out about that. And what you had was Turkey I would imagine he was working with Putin in a certain degree because he wanted the money that the United States was going to give to Turkey for approving Sweden to go into NATO. But I'm sure he didn't want to go against Putin. And Putin said, no, go ahead and do it. That'll give us the excuse we need to get out of the grain deal. So Turkey got the money. I mean, it was the best of both worlds for Turkey. They played both sides. They got to get the money from the United States for allowing Sweden to get in, and then they got the blessing of Russia to not go against them. I mean, they're still buying, from what I understand, Russian weapons. They bought the Russian air defense system, which is much more advanced than the United States. So Turkey came out smelling like roses. The only thing is, I do think they lost money on that deal because I'm not sure that they're going to be getting. Imagine, I'm sure Putin said, you can do it, but we're still going to punish you. And so they're still going to get punished for that just a bit. But anyway, so let's see. Yeah, and of course I pointed out that why wouldn't Russia use cluster munitions at this point? Because the United States is shipping cluster munitions to Ukraine, and so they're using them in vast numbers. And of course, and then people have pointed out, and I totally agree, both sides have used cluster munitions in the past, but it wasn't on such a wide scale. And so, yeah, and Russia has many more. And that's the thing. Once you really opened up Pandora's box, because Russia only used them in a very, very limited capacity up until this point. Well, now you've opened up Pandora's box, and they can far out gun the United States with cluster munitions than the United States was able to provide to Ukraine. So all you're doing is killing a hell of a lot more Ukrainians than you are Russians. I wanted to get to my favorite comment. Oh, by the way, I've been watching Dave Rubin, and I tell you, he's a huge DeSantis, or DeSanctimonious, I like to call him, supporter. I live in Florida. I love the guy. Best governor ever. And he says, who could have done a better job on COVID? Well, Kristi Noem out of South Dakota. She did a better job than anybody on COVID. So, hey, Dave Rubin, man, go to South Dakota. They did a hell of a lot better job than Florida. Now, Florida still did a good job. Of course, I got a lot of tweets up about how Fauci needs to go to jail or face a tribunal for crimes against humanity, but I'm sure that'll never happen. But I want to get to my favorite tweet. Yeah, this is one. I think him and Fauci should be put before an international tribunal for crimes against humanity. Forget who that him was. Let's see. Yeah, this was funny. I don't know if you watched the conference between what is it? What's the leader of Belarus? Daggone it! My head's anyway. He was talking to Putin. Lazarov, yeah, and not Lazarov. Is that anyway? Hard for me to keep it straight in my head. But anyway, he's talking about how Wagner's wants to march down and fight the Poles right away, and he's having a hard time keeping them under control. And I don't know if that's just publicity or whatever. It might be true, man. The Wagners. I imagine they do want to go fight some Poles. What the hell. Oh yeah, and this was one they were talking about how the Russians are mining around the nuclear power plant. I said, well, yeah, I'd take great comfort having mines between the plant and a possible terrorist attack. So I'd be telling the Russians, put all the mines you want all the way, mine it a couple miles away so that nobody can get anywhere near the nuclear power plant. So anyway, I just thought it was funny how the Western media tries to spin these things like that's a bad thing that we got mines around the nuclear power plant to keep somebody from getting in there. Let's see. Okay. Daggone, I got to find this comment. It was my greatest comment ever. Well, of course, we got Polish vehicles that are moving towards Belarus. And then I said, you ever wonder why Wagner is in Belarus? So it says a Polish convoy consisting of roughly 20 pieces of military equipment, which is nothing, including KTO Rosomark 8x8 wheeled armored vehicles, was spotted recently heading towards Polish-Belarusian border. So, and then I said, of course, my comment was, and so it begins, Wagner versus Poland. Oh yeah, this was a good one. I will read this to you. This is just kind of a, this is it. This is the one that because it was an historical reference. So I said, remembering back, the Soviet Union referred to artillery as the god of war. Their artillery not only shattered German formations as they tried to advance, but were able to transform the shape and scope of the battlefield, and that NATO forgot this. That's why we've run out of ammunition. The Russians did not. The Ukrainian offensive attempts were and are doomed as a result. And that's where I got those Russian or Ukrainian nationals against me, because they don't like the truth. That you can't handle the truth. You can't handle the truth. Oh my God. So let's see. Yeah, and of course I did say I will post a video. Oh, this was about the tank. So maybe we're just going to shift over to the end of the video. I just want to make sure. Oh yeah, this was one where somebody was pointing out how Article 5 is going to come up if the Russians do fight Poland. Well, right now the plan is to fight Poland in Ukraine. So really that won't invoke Article 5. But, you know, these things kind of tend to spill over. And I said, well, unless we're going to go nuclear, which, but if we do that, it's the end of the world anyway. But I said, I don't think Russia is worried about NATO at this point in the war. Because they're basically destroying all of NATO's hardware. Let's put it that way. So I don't think that NATO is a concern anymore to the Russians other than to keep destroying their hardware. And then, of course, I always keep telling everybody, they're going on about how you need to prosecute Biden. But how are you gonna prosecute Biden unless you got the guns? The Republicans don't have the guns. The Democrats got the guns. They got a corrupt Justice Department. They got a corrupt FBI. They got a corrupt federal government, and they got a corrupt military. So who's going to fight for the Republicans to actually prosecute a corrupt president? Nobody. Okay, you got to have the guns. That's why the Second Amendment's so important. If you don't have the guns, you can't enforce anything. So that's what I keep telling them over and over again. All these people going on, but this came out, that came out. I'm so tired of reading about that stupid shit. You can't prosecute anybody unless you got the guns. And and also the Democrats have the judiciary. So even if you put it before the judiciary, they'll just overrule it. And then of course, whatever. I can't talk about elections. You'd have to go over to Rumble for that. So let's get into a couple things I want to talk about in the news in my notes. The first most interesting thing, and I'm just going to get the most interesting thing out of the way, and then you can just kind of tune out if you want to, was the information about the T-14 Armada Tank. And this is where I'm really finding Twitter or X, X now, really entertaining and informative. And so I asked the question, I said, what is the problem with the T-14 Armada Tank? I said, it's been out for a while. Why can't the Russians, because they keep saying they've put it out on the field of battle and then it just goes back to the hangar, from what I can tell. So these are the comments, and I have no way of verifying these. I don't know. So the first one, it seems that replacement parts are scarce. So from what I understand from the comments, I guess the T-14 Armada tank was using Western parts. And so now Russia's kind of going to have to go back to the drawing board and redevelop of course they're under sanctions, right? So they can't get those parts. So they got to make all that stuff on their own. And that was a big mistake that somebody made. And, you never know. When military hardware, you always got stupid people. And so that's probably the first problem. And then one guy from the Russian embassy of Belgium, and it was funny because, and that's why I'm getting comments from the Russian embassies now. I just love it. These people are very knowledgeable, and so these are the problems. The drive does not work. The guns do not work. The auto turret only targets friendly units, and the engine overheats. That's why it's not on the field of battle. So it's been withdrawn from the front lines for further testing. Oh my goodness. So I wanted to find the, you know what, I haven't gotten into my latest tweets. So let's get into a couple of those. And so these were my replies. Let me get up to the tweets. Yeah, so here we go. So, yeah, this was interesting. So Russia is opening up the field of battle on very many, multiple fronts. Right now, Shergu is in North Korea. That could be another battlefront. There's another battlefront going on right now in Syria. We've got 300,000 possibly additional Russian troops that will be mobilized, and from my opinion, they will join the Wagner troops on a western front into northern Ukraine, coming out of Belarus. So you can see where they're spreading out NATO. And then, of course, they've opened up South Africa now. So Russia to open embassies in nearly all African countries. Ambassador at Large of the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Oleg Ozurov, announced that Russia is preparing to open embassies in almost all African countries. He stated that the decision-making process for this move is underway and expects the relevant resolutions to be adopted. So I won't read more of that. And then, of course, I've got a poll up. Is the United States woke military the lack of patriotic fervor? Could the United States mobilize 500,000 troops as Russia has done and will do again? Right now, the poll sits at 67% yes, 33% no. I said I'm seeing Russia now pressing NATO on multiple, ever wider fronts. Russia, and of course, I just told you about the mobilization of 15,000 troops. Yeah, this was interesting. This was Colonel Douglas McGregor. As your Western media lies to you, quoting Colonel Douglas McGregor, today more than 100,000 Russian troops are conducting offensive operations along the Liman-Kupiansk axis. These forces include 900 tanks, 555 artillery systems, and 370 multiple rocket launchers. It does not take much imagination to anticipate the breakthrough of these forces in the north, where they will encircle Kharkiv. So that was Colonel Douglas McGregor. I just was reading his. I had another poll out because I wanted to say, I said, well, the United States had a draw in Korea. We lost in Vietnam. We lost in Cuba. We lost in Honduras. We lost in Nicaragua. We won in Grenada, tiny Grenada. We lost in Afghanistan. We lost in Iran. We lost in Iraq. Question, who will win in Ukraine? 69% said the United States is going to win in Ukraine. I love putting these polls up. This is very interesting. And then, yeah, we talked about that. Yeah, I talked about the gods of war. By the way, this was a very, very good tweet by, I won't give the person's name. I don't want to include people's names in my videos. And so he says, if the Democrats win the next election, it will be utter and irreversible mayhem. And I don't see anything here that I disagree with, so I'm just going to read it to you. Packed Supreme Court. Democrats have talked about that. D.C. is a state. Yep, they've talked about that. Federalized elections. Yep, Democrats have talked about that. Endless overseas wars and countless American fatalities. Yep, Democrats have talked about that. Roe v. Wade reinstated. Yep, Democrats have talked about that. Revamped up persecution of Christians. Yep, Democrats did that back during COVID. Biomedical administrative state and endless states of emergencies being declared wherever it's convenient. Yep, Democrats did that back during COVID. Central bank digital currency after dollar is irreversibly tanked and strengthening of the IRS. Yep, Democrats want 85,000 new IRS agents. Now, I would say the central bank digital currency is coming no matter what. We're doomed. The dollar is doomed. BRICS meets in August. They're talking about the new currency perhaps coming out August 22nd. If nothing else, it'll be a new alliance to trade in outside of the dollar. That is the end of the U.S. dollar as we know it. The only salvation that the Federal Reserve Bank can do is the central bank digital currency, which will enslave everyone in the United States. Strengthen bureaucratic monopolies. Yep, agree with that. Absolute demolition of civil rights and doing away with the Constitution. Oh, they've already done that. I mean, the Constitution don't seem to mean much no more, except maybe somewhat in Republican states. That, you know, we're still doing okay. Normalization of pedophilia, bestiality, and Satanism. Promotion of gender mutilation surgery and the legalization of gender-affirming care. Yep. seeing all that right now. Just think of the Sound of Freedom or the latest Democrats Against the Song talking about you can't do that in a small town. More crime and drugs than you can ever imagine. Criminal enforcers normalize domestic terrorism. Yep. We're definitely going there. Demolition of opposing ideology in every industry and all media. Yep. And then, of course, the ultimate climax to all of this, and I can't agree more. We've got this. This only ends in civil war. So, unless the United States just, takes a knee and says, "Okay, fine, we'll just go along with all that." So I thought that was the greatest tweet ever. So this is getting a little long in the tooth, man. I gotta kind of sum this up. So let's see. The defensive line along Zirbets River, Shatov direction, they have been broken through by the Russian army, and it's moving toward Oskol River. And so we already talked about the tank. Let's see. And so one of the things that somebody pointed out was that it just seems like that everybody believes that what Hollywood has presented as war, and I think they're way off on that. Oh, by the way, one thing I noticed today was that the overthrow of the Ukrainian government took place February 22nd. The official date is February 22nd, 2014. And so the symbolism of Russia invading Ukraine was February 24th, 2022. Okay? So I think Russia was trying to be symbolic in the fact that they invaded. Basically, and that date, by the way, is in dispute. That they could say that the overthrow actually happened on the 22nd. Many people say it was the 24th when it was officially recognized. So Russia decided to invade Ukraine on the same date as the overthrow of the government in Ukraine. I just thought that was very interesting. I thought that was pretty cool. Let's see. How satellites work. Not sure what that one was about. Well, how satellites work. Okay, you don't just put up a satellite and have it hover over the fields of Ukraine. It orbits the Earth. So you ever seen those movies where you only get that, we've only got a window of 10 minutes to be able to film what's going on the battlefield. Yes. So everybody says, okay, well, the Russian satellites, they can see everything going on. The U.S. satellites, they can see everything going on. Well, we didn't have an infinite number of satellites up there. You can't watch from every satellite all day long on what's going on the battlefield. Now, it's a huge source of intel for you to be able to look at, but no, it's not the be-all and end-all in modern warfare, And of course, the Russians have put up, by the way, unbeknownst to you, they put up more satellites so they have better coverage of the battlefield. So they're getting better at the war as they move along. Did you watch how the Democrats censored JFK at the censorship trial? Oh my God, was that hilarious? I was watching these Democrats, and they're going, "You can't say that, you can't say it." And he goes, and then JFK cut him down. He goes, "I'm at a censorship trial, and you're censoring me." Oh my God, I was laughing my ass off. Oh my God, Italy is now setting trade in the Russian ruble. That was interesting. That's a NATO member. Bank of America is predicting $3,000 gold. And the Disney movie Dwarfs is going down in flames along with their latest Barbie movie. I tell you, Disney, man, they've gone totally woke. Oh, my God. And then, of course, we've got a lot of commentary out of Ukraine saying that the Western military hardware is just expensive junk. Oh, man. And then, of course, the last thing I'll end with is the UFOs. If you watch Redacted, we're going to be getting some information on UFOs here, well, I want to say within the next month. There's going to be some stuff going on. So let's finish off the video right there. You could run on for a long time, run on for a long time, run on for a long time. Sooner or later, God will cut you down. Sooner or later, God will cut you down. Go tell that glowless liar Tell that Democrat writer. Tell that rhino rambler. That nuclear war gambler. That backbiting U.S. politician. Tell them all that God's gonna cut them down. Tell them all that God's gonna cut them down. Say hi to Boo. Say hi, Boo. Say hi.